The sun felt like it had a personal grudge against me. By noon, it wasn't just heat, it was punishment. The kind that crawls under your skin, dries your throat, and makes every step feel heavier than the last. I wiped the sweat from my brow for what felt like the 100th time, my hand trembling slightly as I tried to catch my breath. I shouldn't have taken this road. The shortcut, they'd called it. Cuts an hour off your journey, the old man at the tea stall had said with a lazy smile. What he hadn't mentioned was the endless stretch of dusty emptiness, the broken path, or the way the sun seemed to hang directly above it like an unforgiving eye. My water bottle was nearly empty. My phone had died an hour ago. And the small town I was supposed to reach felt like a myth now, something people talked about but didn't actually exist. I stopped walking, not because I wanted to, but because my legs refused to take another step. I bent forward, hands on my knees, breathing hard. My shirt clung to my back, soaked. My head throbbed, and for a moment, the world tilted. Just 5 minutes, I muttered to myself. But even as I said it, I knew 5 minutes could turn into something worse. Out here, stopping wasn't rest, it was risk. Still, I couldn't go on. I staggered toward the only thing that offered even a hint of relief, a lone tree standing crookedly by the side of the path. Its shadow was small, barely enough to cover half my body, but it was something. I sank down beneath it, letting my back press against the rough bark. The ground was hot, but compared to the blazing sun, it felt almost kind. I closed my eyes, and for a moment, everything went quiet. Too quiet. Hey. The voice was soft, almost a whisper. I opened my eyes immediately, heart jumping into my throat. There was no one there. Just the empty road, the distant shimmer of heat, and the endless silence. I frowned, pushing myself up slightly. Hello. Nothing. I let out a shaky breath. Great. Now I'm hearing things. I rubbed my face, trying to steady myself. You can rest here a while. This time, I heard it clearly. My head snapped to the side. And that's when I saw her. She stood just a few steps away, half hidden behind the tree, as if she'd been there all along. I hadn't heard her approach. Hadn't seen her coming. A woman, maybe in her late 20s. She wore a simple, light-colored dress that moved gently with the breeze, though I hadn't noticed any breeze until now. Her dark hair was tied loosely, a few strands falling across her face. Her eyes, they were calm. Unusually calm. Too calm for someone standing in the middle of nowhere. I stared at her, my mind struggling to catch up. Where did you? I began, then stopped. I didn't see you. She smiled faintly, stepping closer into the shade. That's all right, she said softly. You look exhausted. I let out a small, awkward laugh. That obvious, huh? She nodded. You've been walking a long time. Something about the way she said it made me pause. How do you know that? She tilted her head slightly, as if the answer was obvious. People who come this way are usually trying to get somewhere quickly. Yeah, I said, glancing down the road. Bad idea, apparently. Not always. There was a quiet confidence in her voice. Not dismissive. Just certain. I studied her more closely. She didn't look like someone who belonged out here. No bag, no water, no sign of where she'd come from or where she was going. Are you from around here? I asked. She nodded. You could say that. That's helpful, I muttered, earning a small smile from her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't entirely normal either. Then she gestured toward the ground beside me. Sit, she said. You need to rest. I am resting, I replied weakly. Not like this. Before I could ask what she meant, she moved a little further into the shade, and something strange happened. The air felt cooler, not just slightly, but noticeably. Like stepping into a room with a fan after being outside all day. I blinked, confused. Had it just been my imagination? Come on, she said gently. I hesitated. Every instinct told me something about this situation was off. A stranger appearing out of nowhere. The sudden change in temperature. The way she spoke, calm and certain, as if she knew more than she should. But then my body reminded me of its limits. I was exhausted, dehydrated, possibly on the verge of collapsing. And right now, she was offering relief. I shifted closer. The moment I moved fully into the space beside her, the coolness deepened. I let out a long breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Okay, that's weird, I admitted. She didn't seem surprised. It helps, she said simply. Yeah, I replied, leaning back again. Yeah, it really does. For a while, we just sat there. The sun still blazed beyond the tree, but inside that small circle of shade, it felt manageable. Peaceful, even. What's your name? I asked eventually. She looked at me, her expression softening. Amina, she said. I know, she interrupted gently. I blinked. You, no, she nodded. A strange chill ran down my spine, despite the cool air. Have we met before? I asked carefully. No, she said, not like this. That didn't make me feel any better. I shifted slightly, studying her again. Okay, that's a little mysterious. She smiled faintly. You'll understand. When? Soon. I let out a breath, half amused, half unsettled. You're not going to explain any of this, are you? Would you believe me if I did? I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. Probably not, I admitted. Exactly. We fell into silence again. But this time, my mind wasn't racing. It should have been. Nothing about this situation made sense. And yet, I felt calm, not just physically, but mentally. Like the noise in my head had been turned down. The stress, the urgency, the constant pressure to keep moving, it all seemed distant. Why are you going there? She asked suddenly. I frowned. Going where? She gestured vaguely down the road. The town. Oh, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. Work, I guess. Opportunity. A fresh start. And you think it's waiting for you there? I hope so. She looked at me for a long moment. Sometimes, she said quietly, what we're chasing isn't where we think it is. I chuckled softly. That sounds like something people say when things don't work out. Or when they do, she replied. I didn't have a response to that. Instead, I leaned my head back against the tree and closed my eyes again. Just a few more minutes, I murmured. Take your time, she said. And for the first time that day, I slept. When I woke up, the sun had shifted. The light wasn't as harsh anymore. The air felt different, cooler, calmer. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then everything came rushing back. The road, the heat, the tree, her. I sat up quickly. Amina, no answer. I looked around. She was gone. Completely gone. I stood, my heart pounding. Hello, nothing. The road stretched empty in both directions. I turned in a slow circle, scanning the area. No footprints, no movement, no sign that anyone had been there at all. Except, I paused. The ground where I'd been sitting, it was different. Cooler, softer, as if it had been shaded longer than the rest. I frowned, trying to make sense of it. Had I imagined her? No, it had felt too real. The conversation, the presence, the calm. I exhaled slowly, running a hand through my hair. Okay, I muttered. Doesn't matter. What mattered was that I felt better. Not just a little better, but completely refreshed. The exhaustion was gone. My head was clear. My body felt light again, as if I hadn't been struggling just hours before. I picked up my bag, taking a cautious sip from my nearly empty bottle. Then I started walking again. The town appeared sooner than I expected. By late afternoon, I could see the buildings in the distance, small, clustered, real. Relief flooded through me. I quickened my pace. As I reached the outskirts, I noticed an old man sitting outside a small shop. He looked up as I approached, his eyes narrowing slightly. You came from that road? He asked. Yeah, I replied. Took the shortcut. He let out a low whistle. Not many make it through that in this heat. Yeah, well, I almost didn't. He studied me more closely. Did you stop? He asked. I hesitated. Yeah, I said. There was a tree. I rested there for a bit. The old man went very still. Did you see anyone? My chest tightened. I swallowed. Why? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gestured for me to sit. I did. There are stories, he said slowly. About that road. Of course there are, I replied, forcing a small laugh. People who get lost, who push themselves too far. He looked at me carefully. Some say, they're helped. A chill ran through me. Helped, he nodded. By a woman. My grip tightened on my bottle. What kind of woman? I asked quietly. Kind, he said, calm. Appears when you need her most. My heart pounded. Amina, I whispered. The old man's eyes widened slightly. You saw her. It wasn't a question. I leaned back slowly, my mind racing. Who is she? I asked. He shook his head. No one knows for sure. Some say she used to travel that road herself. Long ago. He paused. They say she didn't make it. The words hit me like a wave. And now? I asked. He looked out toward the road. Now, he said softly, she makes sure others do. That night, As I lay in a small room in the town, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every moment. Her voice, her calm presence, the way the air had changed. You can rest here a while. I sat up, staring out the window at the dark horizon. Part of me wanted to dismiss it all, to call it dehydration, hallucination, stress. But deep down, I knew better. I stood, walking to the window. The road was barely visible in the distance. Quiet, still, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw a figure standing there, watching. Then it was gone. The next morning, I made a decision. The job, the opportunity, the fresh start, it all suddenly felt different. Less urgent, less certain. Instead, I found myself thinking about that road, about the people who might be walking it right now. Struggling, exhausted, alone. I turned to the old man. Is there any way to help people on that road? I asked. He looked at me, surprised. You want to go back? I nodded. Not to leave, I said. To stay. He studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled. Weeks later, a small shelter stood by that crooked tree. Water, shade, a place to rest. Travelers stopped there, grateful, relieved. And sometimes, they said the air felt cooler than it should. That they felt calmer than they expected. That, for a moment, it was like someone was watching over them. I never saw her again. But sometimes, when the sun was at its harshest, and the road shimmered in the heat, I'd hear it, soft, familiar. You can rest here a while. And I'd smile, because I finally understood. Sometimes, the place you're rushing toward isn't where you're meant to be. Sometimes, you're meant to become the reason someone else keeps going.